Be inspired instead of be in fear. Like, what would you do if you weren't afraid? I think fear holds people back in so many ways, right? We talked about the fear-based headline, your jobs are going away. Well, how about you have this new tool? How are you going to exploit it? How are you going to take it and make it your advantage, make it your tool that you can leverage and be a better version of you?
One of the main fears I hear from people about robotics is, are they safe? Are they going to take my job? This is a real fear in our society. Well, today I'm talking to a dear friend, Kristi Martindale, and she works in robotics in AI and has for quite some time. And she's going to give us a realistic perspective about future of robots in our society. What are the risks? Where's the hope? After you hear this conversation, I think you're going to have a lot more optimism about our future. So let's talk to Kristi Martindale from Palladyne AI. This podcast is brought to you by our sponsors at Edward Jones, accredited wealth management advisor, Mark Rule. I am super excited about this show, like genuinely excited, because I am bringing a lady that represents not only my past, but the future and the now. Can we say that about anyone? Well, we can say that about Kristi Martindale. She is the Chief Commercialization Officer of Palladyne AI, but that's just a sliver of this amazing individual. Kristi, welcome to the pod, Mind the Machine.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here. Great talking with you again, Cheryl. We always have such wonderful conversations. So I'm looking forward to this journey over the next hour to see what comes out from our dialogue.
Right. What comes out, and usually our conversations are pretty spicy. So it'll be like, what stays in? Who knows? Only the producer knows. Would you just tell the folks what Palladyne is, what they're delivering on, and what we can expect in the future?
Absolutely. So Palladyne AI is using physical AI to make robots do things smarter. It's giving them the brains and intellect to reason and address complex tasks in complex environments to automate things that historically just couldn't be automated.
You represent to me something that no one else in my life represents, and that's someone that was my first boss at Qualcomm. You left Qualcomm. Sarcos was next. Was that right?
That is correct. So I did leave Qualcomm. I crazily thought that I was going to retire and live the life of Riley. And so anybody that knows me had that look. They're like, right, this is not going to happen. It lasted about 6 months. And I had a great time, but I realized that my brain, it just can't, that's not working for me. So I reached out to Peggy Johnson. She was leading up all of the strategy and BD at Microsoft at the time. I told her, Peggy, no, I do not. I don't want to go back to a big company. I really want to go someplace where I make an impact every day. And I know I made an impact at Qualcomm. When I look back, there's a lot of incredible things I was fortunate enough to be able to do. But I really wanted to take all that expertise and be able to apply it to a company and really help hopefully change their trajectory. So I went to Peggy, asked her, you're looking at all these small companies. If you find one that's interesting, that needs somebody with my skill set, just keep me in mind. About 2 weeks later, she sent me an email. Hey, what do you think about a robot company? Why not? Let's talk robots. And so she introduced me to the CEO. They had just finished their Series A. There were 15 people in the company. I think I might have been the 15th person to be hired. And they're based in Salt Lake City, Utah. They're building at the time. What had happened is they did a management buyout. The technology had lived within Raytheon. Sarcos had this very long history from 1983. And they did everything from a prosthetic arm to the Bellagio fountains to the Jurassic Park dinosaurs. So an incredible legacy of technology and technology expertise. And so the management buyout, they took that technology as it applied to the robots and wanted to build a business to develop these complex robotic systems to address hard problems in the industry, and ultimately a full-body powered exoskeleton. So that was the vision for Sarcos, and we did that for a number of years. We did from Series A. After I joined us, Series A was in play. We went through the whole continuum, a D-SPAC like many did. So we went through a D-SPAC. And here's the reality. Hardware's hard. So
Yeah.
people say that. Hardware's hard. So it was taking a little bit longer to
And
commercialize.
just for a visual for those listening and or watching the video, and we'll show also to Sarco's product, but it's reminds me of Transformers. Like when you say exoskeleton, you're talking like more than meets the eye. I'm sure you've heard that joke a
Oh, yeah,
thousand times, but
it's amazing. It's just still to this day, it's just incredible technology. Yeah, you're in a suit, you can lift up 200 pounds like it's nothing. It is just incredible technology. I likened it to when the Wright brothers, how they might have felt when they were trying to fly, and people like, oh, that's crazy. You can't do that. That's scary. If people are going to get hurt. There's all of
yeah,
these fears
yeah.
that come into play. But what ultimately happened is one of the core pieces of building these complex hardware systems was the software layer. So really the software was the thing that had the controls and really was the thing that made the hardware be more than what it would be capable without the software, right? And so we made a decision to abstract that layer of software. And we had hired a AI genius. His name is Dennis Garojek. He's now the co-founder of Palladyne AI. He's so funny. People go, oh, Dennis can write a paper. And yes, 1000% Dennis can. He'll give me a paper and there's 5 pages of math formulas. I'm like, wow, yeah, this is amazing. We're going to put this aside.
You'd be
So
like, mm.
he's an absolutely brilliant AI scientist. So we took the software layer. We said AI. There's a lot of things if we really infuse this with AI, and it could be applicable to robotic systems far beyond just the hardware we're developing. And so we made that call to just take the software and open it up and make it hardware agnostic and applicable to industrial hardware systems, cobots, AMRs, drones. So that's the path we're on now, where it's AI software. It has capabilities of reasoning and thinking to really enhance the capabilities of robotic systems and enable them to address and automate areas that previously couldn't be automated just due to the complexity and the diversity either of the environment or the diversity of the task, or in some cases, the diversity of the part that is being handled. And so in in physical AI, as it's being referred to now, right? Taking software and AI and applying it to physical things like robots and then making them work in the real world. Those are areas that we focus on, and looking at those jobs that previously couldn't be automated in areas that couldn't be automated just because of that complexity. And the AI
Yeah.
needs us to address that complexity because it gives it more human-like reasoning and
Mhm. Yeah, it's fascinating, obviously, which is why I've been chasing you down to get on the show because, when I think about the exoskeleton transformer, it is informed by the movement of the human inside. So the cognition's here, and it's like, great, you're just like super strength, right? That natural progression of marrying it with AI. Of course, you and I know, and many people now know that, AI has been around since 1956 in terms of the way since it was coined. And there's many spurts in innovation and many peaks and valleys in this journey. So it's taken a long time to get here. Now we think about hardware and generative AI and deep reasoning. And this is mind blowing, actually, to think about what that really will look like. And so today you mentioned physical AI, physical robotics. I think of like, is there a difference between embodied robotics? Is this the same type of thing? And how should people think about what this, what problem this would solve in business, possibly in home? I mean, we see Optimus folding clothes. Yes, please, I'll take two. Um, how should they think about that? What would you love for people to know and to have that same level of excitement that you and I both have? Like, how can we get them excited about it? Because I think some folks are really trying to understand, am I being replaced? Am I being augmented? What's happening here? If we take the long view, if we take the Kristi long view, what's the big
If I
one?
take the long view, what I would say is that we are truly at the end of the day enhancing the human's life in some ways, right? The jobs that we're applying AI to and industrial robots to, I have to tell you, I've done some of the site visits. Some I go, yeah, no thanks. I'll pass on that one. There are things that people do still to this day that blow my mind. It's not safe. It's in a environment that is not what I would consider healthy. And
Like real jobs today, unassisted real jobs
real
today. Right.
jobs today.
Yeah.
I mean, everything from, if you can imagine, I'm sure everybody loves their little chicken tenders. There are people whose job it is to get all the bones out of a chicken. So think about that. That's your day all day long is deboning chicken. I personally could not do that. There's jobs that that's their day sorting and sequencing part. This part goes from this box to here. This one goes from this box to slot C. I think that human intellect and curiosity and desire is to evolve and have a higher level of thinking. And if you can apply AI and robots to do those things that are monotonous or dangerous, I think as a society, we all win, right? It's just
Yeah.
better. And
Right.
so when I think of AI and robotics, all of the areas that we've been focusing on are, and yes, some people, that job that a human was doing may look different. Maybe now their job is to be the robot programmer. Our approach is this low code, no code approach to training robots. The robots still need to be told what to do in some capacity, right? It needs to be hard programmed. In our case, there's a low code, no code way to do it. And it's somebody like myself, who's not an engineer, can program the robot. And so it opens up opportunities that didn't exist before. When we talk about, oh, the robots are taking the jobs, we're both old enough to know about. Remember when ATMs were first came out and everyone's like, oh, banks are going to go away. We're never going to have a bank. And what are they going to do with those tellers? And like, yeah, they're still there. They're still banks. I had to go
Yeah.
not that long ago. There's still tellers there. So it all worked out
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Everything evolves up. And I know that we look at the history of all disruption is it's an upward trajectory. And I often think about like websites, the webmaster, back in the day, and it's like that job now represents what, 2,000 jobs, half of which are social media. But, I mean, it's like, thank you to, the power of CDMA and Qualcomm and mobile devices, that we have mobile web and all those things. But yes, there is going to be an explosion of jobs. And I think where, I wrote the book, How to Win Friends and Influence Robots, which of course is very irreverent. But
that's
you're
shocking to
like,
hear.
I was on a podcast that I was introduced as Cheryl's book is informative and funny. She's really irreverent. And I'm like, yeah, is that a good thing? That's a good thing. Okay, yes. But to make light of these big ideas, and I think to make light of it is to look at, it's like, well, sometimes I feel like society at large likes to polarize they either say it's wonderful and they become AI nuts, or they become, completely polarized and say, oh, it's bad for you. But it's just a tool. It's like getting excited about your hammer. Like it's a tool. Would you agree with that? Is that fair to
Oh,
say?
1000%. I mean, it really, and I think that what we're going to see come out of AI is just going to be transformative across so many industries. We look at, manufacturing, and that's great, especially as it relates to reshoring and manufacturing. There's some way that we have to be effective and get these jobs done, and robotics and AI are going to play a part in that. But more importantly to me, and are just as important, are all those other industries that are being spawned, things you just don't think about. I mean, there's
Right.
robotics and AI in agriculture. Exciting to
Hmm.
me. I talked about being a science geek. Robotics and AI in healthcare. You talked about your ear surgery. It just, the advances we're able to make, even in um, drug history or identifying issues with disease, we're able to accelerate research and understanding by leveraging AI to help us do those types of jobs much, much better.
Yeah, and I don't think these stories are being told because it's much easier to say, your job's going away, to create fear. I must click. And this is I think the brokenness of, algorithmic news feeds is this confirmation bias. If I clicked on this fear generating article, and then you get more of it, see people are so polarized. But what, really, and this is the purpose of Mind the Machine. Sub purpose is really, where are the good stories? Where's the hope? And we actually kicked off a thing called the Hope AI Tour. It started 2 weeks ago in Santa Clara at the AI Expo. And I'm doing back to back conferences, really looking for stories of hope. And this hope that you don't have to debone a chicken. Come on, this is good news, people. Even the chickens are happy about it. They're like, "Yeah, that guy was really rough. I'm pretty excited about this robot." So, everyone can be happy here. And I just think that sometimes people resign themselves that they want to be in opposition or they want to be polarizing. And I think there's just a little bit too much excitement there. That said, you and I both know that we do live in a broken world. We're humans, we're humans who've made human engineered powerful devices in hardware and software and generative AI and so forth. And so when you think about how things go wrong, how should folks think about the risks? And what advice and guidance would you give them to, um, process that in a healthy way?
Yeah, that's an interesting concept, right? I mean, the first thing that came to mind as you were asking the question, it's, yeah, trust but verify, right? You don't just take it at face value. Generative generative AI has hallucinations. There's things that are just wrong. The reality of large language models today is they're only, and this is a story as old as the ages. The data out is only as good as the data in, right? And so there's information bias, there's what's available or what's not available for them to draw these inferences and this information from. And so when we think about that, it's just allow it again as a tool, just as we used to use Google search, and now we probably use GPT or something else to kind of get a more complete research. It's a tool. It's a tool, and you're not going to blindly follow, the article that was written by Joe in the box over here. You're going to take a couple sources and you're going to validate the data, right? And I think it's the same with some new technology. You trust and verify. You use it as a tool. You don't completely hand over everything and stop your own thinking and your own the human instincts and the human ability to reason and process, right? Because I think that human intellect is still will be critical and important for as long
Yeah.
as, we can see in the foreseeable future.
Right, right. And I think about even since November 2022, the headlines, how they are, still many of them generating fear, inciting fear, but we are starting to see a pattern, that recognition that folks are really embracing that humans in the loop is that mix. It's not going to be 100% robots and we're the human slaves polishing robot boots. Well, maybe me, but I kind of like shoes anyway. But it's this admission of human in the loop. As a matter of fact, at the AI Expo, I was sharing that for the last couple of days last week, and that was the reoccurring theme. Is like, yes, the human is in the loop. We will watch this, but we'll still have that exponential work output, rising us to that next level. And to me, it sounds like mostly good news. Mostly good news.
I would agree. And when you were talking about kind of that fear-based dialogue that is out in the market, I mean, if we're being honest, now it's called clickbait. In the old days, it was just those fear-monger headlines, right? That's a sensationalism that media, journalists, whomever uses to grab attention. And unfortunately, as the human race, those negative headlines typically get more attention than the ones that, the world is rosy. So
Everything's okay. No one
Exactly.
ever clicked on that.
Exactly. So there's always that need to have that, drive that tension and drive that headline that really is attention grabbing, and sometimes that is a disservice because I think with this new generation, they're trying to get out. They're trying to figure out, like, how do I make it through in there? And if all they hear is this negativity, like, how do we inspire them to take this tool and really do these life-changing things for across industries that our generation had the opportunity to do. The next generation now has a new tool to do those same things.
Yeah. And I think that if I could pat our generation on the back right now, is that, there we grew up without, I mean, I had an Atari. I thought it was the best thing ever. But, there were cell phones. There was barely, by the time I think I got my first computer, it was, gosh, I really am dating myself. I'm hearing myself. I sound like a really old person. Oh my
We're gonna
gosh.
delete all these pieces, right?
That's right. Back in my day, Kristi. But it's like a really computing, really, no one, I don't think, was having the same reactions to PCs in the same way that this is. But I will say, when I was writing the book and doing research, I found a press release from 1946 from the War Department. And it basically read almost exactly like headlines from when ChatGPT launched, relative to the launching of these computers. Will not take, there will still have computers here. And so it's like, I feel like most folks in organization and companies that are fully understand, and you mentioned this in the very beginning, understand their customers, understand consumers, understand human nature, really lead with the bigger picture. And I thought it was hysterical how similar this press release read to press releases today and news today. It's like our problems are really, they're still the same. Like, the best of us in business is going to be the human element. So that human in the loop has probably got to be a really cool human. And they have to probably be really resilient. They have to have a little bit of Irwin, a little bit of Kristi, a little bit of Peggy. You know what I mean? It's like, that's the kind of human that needs to be in the loop. It's the person that's basically hiding under a rock or causing problems in general and not looking toward the solution that probably won't be the human in the loop. So I think this is about us as humans. How do we show up as humans in this revolution?
Oh, absolutely. And, be inspired instead of be in fear. Really take this opportunity and to your point earlier, it's a tool. Take it as a tool. It's not to displace you. Use it as the thing it is, and take that tool and make it into something that's meaningful for you, or apply it to an area that's meaningful to you. And I think that you're right, the people, and it's common in other, when we were at Qualcomm, we talked about that a lot, but resilience, persistent drive, vision, that no fear, like, okay, one of my favorite quotes I remember, and I don't know where it originated. I know it was Facebook on the wall. It's like, what would you do if you weren't afraid? And so that's, I think it's just so powerful because I think fear holds people back in so many ways, right? We talked about the fear-based headline, your jobs are going away. Well, how about you have this new tool? How are you going to exploit it? How are you going to take it and make it your advantage, make it your tool that you can leverage and be a better version of you, right? And so removing that fear and really just embracing the what's next and the power of the what's next, I think is going to be key. And you're right, it's resilience, it's fearlessness, it's passion, it's that inquisitiveness, wanting to learn, wanting to understand, wanting to figure it out.
Or wanting to build, well, I have a sister that was a studied computer science and worked at Apple. And I was a little envious. She's super smart. Not that I'm not smart, but just, I'm brilliant. Everyone hear that? That's the headline. But, I always had this fear that I wasn't made in that way. And she had a natural ability. Like she'd take apart stuff and I'd be like, dude, that was the Atari. It's like disassembled on the floor. Right. So she was like a natural at these things. And so I always, kind of wanted to be on that more on that side. But the net, I guess my reasoning in saying that is I feel like everyone now can participate. Everyone can be a builder with things like Replit and she mentioned yes, a lot of folks go to ChatGPT, but there's so many other open models and Hugging Face, and really the price to participate isn't that high if you can push past the death by 1,000 subscriptions. It can be had, and this is the part that excites me so much as I think you may know I'm teaching now. So I teach a MBA course at Biola. I teach in the falls. Will be my first semester there, but and I do workshops at all the universities. So I deal with a lot of students, and so many of the students feel displaced. And I'm like, dude, if I could stay up past 9 o'clock, you know what I'd be doing? I'm like, rub my foot and I'll tell you more. No, I'm joking. Um, But like that excitement of that we had in the dot-com era, followed by cloud, followed by smartphone or smartphone cloud, like that whole all of those evolutions changed how we were able to do magnificent things. I mean, could you imagine, Christy, having cloud access when we were working at Media Flow, like all the tools that we had, how much better and faster, the work product would have been, right? And it's like,
When I think back in my whole life, every technology shift has just made my life infinitely better. I mean, when I was doing my term papers in high school, it was on that first Mac that didn't have an internal hard drive, that you saved your information on a floppy disk, and then you had to print it out on a dot matrix. Remember, so, and you didn't get to search on the internet. You had to go to the library, and we had to know the Dewey Decimal System, and you're looking through books and trying to do research. It's just, I can't imagine having to do that now. I can't imagine not being able, I can't remember a phone number or directions now to save my life because it's all on my phone. I don't need to grab it. I now can push away and use that capacity in my brain, what's left of it, to work on other things and not worry about how I'm going to get to, my appointment because my phone knows, my car knows. Good, done, let's go.
yeah, yeah. And this is times 100 of what AI is going to do. And so I would say to all of those listening out there, and not for just students, if you're out of work or in between jobs, or maybe this is the time to build and come to a hackathon, whether it's Startup San Diego or really any other community, and start to build, because I think it's anyone's time. If you have the desire to learn, I don't think it's, I will say this as I'm like doing the pitch, everyone go and build. We do have some educational challenges to get everyone to build. And so maybe we'll talk just a little bit about this. Um, as a mom, I know that know that college is not easy. In helping nurture people to their ultimate path is not easy. I feel like the university system certainly has a lot to be desired about in terms of really fully supporting AI, and I think we're in an evolution there. And I think a lot of the learning is happening in community. What would be your advice to someone that wants to get involved in AI and robotics or just general AI?
It's interesting. It's a big question. One of the things I think that the society is wrestling with right now is how important is higher level education in terms of traditional colleges. And I honestly still think it plays the same role it always played in broadening mind, giving those students access to diversity of opinion, diversity of thought, cultural differences. And so that in and of itself is mind opening. But is it necessary to have a job in AI? Not likely, right? And the tools themselves, you named so many tools. You could spend all day looking at the tools that exist for people to do whatever it is they're trying to do. But it's everything from, I know people that have built complete businesses, as twinkle in their eye, and then 6 months later, they've launched a product and, they're out in the market and they're selling it to somebody else we know, Navrina Singh, right? 5 years ago, she started her company on really about for AI really having that, why is the word escaping me?
Oh, yeah, the governance.
Governance,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Credo
And
AI.
that's
Yep.
super, super important, right? But I
Yeah.
remember when she first started talking about it, I'm like, huh? And now it's like, well, yeah, of course that makes total sense, right? It's
Yeah.
it's critical and it's needed. But the other thing, I was just talking to a colleague not too long ago, and he was telling me how his job has completely shifted because of AI. And I think as students or as job seekers, harnessing the power of AI to do the research you should be doing when you're going out to apply for a job, right? It simplifies it so much more. It's not just going and reading the 10K on a site, or you can use these deep research tools and these AI tools to basically put together a thesis for you to present to the person you want to be employed by, or help you flesh out some of your thinking and your ideas about maybe an application you want to create around with AI. It's just opened up so many paths and possibility. And maybe in some ways that's kind of the harder thing, is figuring out where to focus your time and energy. And I think then that goes back again to the basics. What are you passionate about? What inspires you? Where is it that you feel that you can be fulfilled and is going to be meaningful to you in your life, and try to get those planets to align.
Yeah, yeah, and that market need, and I think that's the phenomenal. Very, very well said. I will say, what interesting. I think the friction that we're feeling right now is a lot of schools are using software like what's it called? Turnitin. It has a very high rate of failure for auditing if you've used AI, and there's it's the bots. I use my bot to build this, and then the teacher uses their bots. It's like the battle of the bots, and I'm like,
Yeah.
meanwhile, I'm out there sunbathing, and it's like I knew I was going to get to the 2-day work week because the bots are doing everything, but there's that, and then there's the bots for jobs. Like it's the hardest ever because of the formulaic ways that processes are happening with I forget what it's called. Oh my goodness, I have a class on this too. But automation in HR processes, and so I think these are the opportunities that need to be solved for practical work force. But then also too is using AI as an assist, but not as the total solution. Because now you can tell when you see an email from someone, you're like, you just totally generated that with AI. And it's like there's some, there's a little bit of a, I don't know, we're seeking that authenticity in our communications. It's not about the perfectly placed period. It's about conveying what you really wanted authentically, as opposed to, mass generation. But anyway, kind of
No,
gone on the
and you're
rails on that.
absolutely right. And it goes back to your comment about human in the loop, right? I mean, when you look at it in those capacities, are the students using it as a tool to do the research, to formulate an idea and a thought and a thesis? Are they using it to do the work and just generate something that's going to have hallucinations or incomplete thoughts because maybe it didn't get all of the information? And so the people that are really embracing it as a tool and they're still in the loop and they're using it to inform or to gather or to do that monotony of pulling together, but they're still applying intellectual thought and critical thinking to do the work. Those are going to be those are the builders, right? Those are the people that are going to be taking us forward. There's opportunity there. And so everyone start building to solve for that. So Kristi, you and I have known each other for a very long time. In our highs and our highs and our lows and our lows, and a lot of boring in between at work. Because we both know how short life is, and we think about trying to do big things. What's informed you to be so fearless? Is it because you truly know the frailty of life? Or is it is it more spiritual? What drives you? That's a very good question. As you know, recently, there's a frailty of life, fragility of life. But when I think back, I've always just been very driven and motivated to just solve the problems and really how do we advance and how do we get better. And early on in Qualcomm, and I've had this conversation with you before. I had to think about, okay, to be a woman in tech, and you know this as well, you're often the only female in the room. You're often the quietest voice in the room because lots of loud voices. And sometimes when you take the seat at the table and you speak up loudly and directly, which, as you know, I'm very direct in my communication style, that's not always well received. You're seen as not, especially a female in marketing, because they expect you to be nice and friendly and bring them the tchotchkes. And yeah, that's not me.
Who's my colored napkin?
Exactly. And so early on in my career, I just made a decision. It's like, what's more important to me? Is it more important for me to be liked or respected? And I decided it was more important that I was respected. And to me, respect came from committing and doing the job that you were hired to do and doing the best you could to, advance the needs of the company. Like if the company wins, we all win. And so I tried to never have a personal agenda or personal, like not what's in it for me. It's like, okay, how do we solve this for everybody? How do we advance this fall? And sometimes, it meant you had unpopular conversations or you said things that people don't want to hear. Their baby's ugly. Like, I mean, I remember a conversation, an engineer.
Back to talk watch.
Oops. And, an engineer showing me this thing and they were so excited about it. And I'm trying to process it and find like, okay, so how are you going to make money with that? And it was just like this light came on, right? And again, it wasn't the popular thing to say, right? That wasn't the thing that made him feel good about what he was doing. But it was a question that had to be asked because how much time and money and cycles were we going to spend on something that there was no clear end state and no clear value and wasn't really driving anything? So, yeah, I think and maybe it was because I grew up, we didn't have a lot. And so I needed to be able to make it on my own. And to do that, I felt like it was through hard work and again, just doing the right thing for the business and doing the right thing for the project, because I really believe that if you solve that, then it's a solve for everybody that's involved, and everybody rises
Yeah.
with it.
No, that's phenomenal. And it sounds, this is, I think, how everything gets better if everyone can approach whatever they're doing with great intention and great stewardship, because everything that you did has an influence and you have impacted positively many people's lives. Anyone that's ever reported to you, they may not were digging in at review time, but in general, your guidance was, I always found it to be unbiased, objective, clear, and actionable with context. It's almost like you had ChatGPT before ChatGPT was on, but it wasn't this, uh, last minute Louis. I think that's another term that you tell me, this last minute Louis, it wasn't, you were always very thoughtful and very intentional because I've always witnessed you walking in purpose. And
Thank you.
so, Kristi, you're an amazing leader. I can't wait to see what happens next. Phenomenal talking with you. Thanks so much for your time, and I can't wait to hear how Palladyne continues to grow and be successful. Thanks to your leadership, of course.
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure, Cheryl. As always, it's so good to see you. So good to chat with you. So proud of all you've done. I mean, honestly, it's just incredible. Bye-bye. Thank you.
All right, friends. So that was Mind the Machine. And if you've not subscribed, please do. And even better, if you have comments, concerns, or you want to be on the show, let us know. And thanks for watching Mind the Machine, found on YouTube and all places where you can get your podcast. Have a great day.
I had been on the jet before with other people, but this is the first time I'm on with Erwin, and we all called him Dr. Jacobs, as you know. And I'm trying to be as small as I can in the seat because I'm like, oh, I don't even know what do I do here? And we get seated, the plane takes off, and first he didn't have, he only had the pilot and the co-pilot on the flight. And so he gets up after we're at altitude and he goes, okay, could I get you an omelet? Would you like something to eat? Right. I'm going, like, how do you deal with that, right? He's this icon and this idol in my head, and I'm already nervous, and he's asking to serve me an omelet. It was just one of the most surreal moments. And, you don't insult the host. Well, of course, but you're going, this is bizarre. But just again, I think that just goes to just the core of who he is as a human. So humble, so kind, so generous. And that moment has always just been embedded in my head.